Hitler joined forces with Germany and took over Austria. In 1930, the German army also made its mark on Austria. Then Hitler asked for the territory of Sweden from Czechoslovakia. He told the British Prime Minister Neville Chamberlain that this was his last demand. Just give Sweden to Germany, then I will not ask for any other territory. Chamberlain again made a mistake and agreed to Hitler's demand. And Germany got this territory as well. After this success, Hitler made the rest of Czechoslovakia rebel and divided the country into pieces. And then one by one he plundered them. Interestingly, during this time, Hitler met the president of Czechoslovakia, Dr. Emil Hesse. Hitler threatened Emil Hesse so much that the president fainted out of fear. He had to inject the president with an injection to bring him back to consciousness. Anyway, after taking over Czechoslovakia, Hitler turned his attention to Poland. But by then, the world had understood Hitler's game. It had become famous that Hitler breaks all his promises. Therefore, one should not believe anything he says. Britain and France had a military agreement with Poland that if Germany attacked Poland, they would support it. The situation on the border between Poland and Germany was getting worse. Then on August 31st, German soldiers disguised as Polish citizens and attacked a German radio station. Hitler accused Poland of this attack. The next day, Hitler's 1.5 million troops attacked Poland. Poland's 1.5 million troops also entered the battlefield. This number was not less. But the German Air Force was 10 times larger than the Polish Air Force. And the Polish troops had very few tanks. Therefore, Britain and France decided to help Poland. On September 3rd, at 9 a.m., Britain and France sent an ultimatum to Hitler. Stop the war against Poland, or get ready to fight with us. Germany had only 2 hours to stop the war. That is, until 11 o'clock. At 11 o'clock, nothing happened. At 11 o'clock, it was 10 minutes. Nothing happened. Then at 11 o'clock, it was 15 minutes. British Prime Minister Neville Chamberlain's voice echoed on the radio. He said, "No answer to our ultimatum from Berlin." Now Britain was in a state of war with Germany. After that, the war was declared by France. After defeating Poland, Hitler's dream of uniting the German nation was fulfilled. But the price of this success was also very high. That is, the Second World War had begun. Hitler was more in danger from Britain and France than from Soviet Russia. He did not want Russia, Britain and France to encircle him from both east and west. So Hitler gave greed to Stalin, the Russian ruler, that if he agreed not to fight for 10 years, then Germany would also give part to Russia with its victories. Stalin made a deal with Hitler. In fact, he also jumped into the war against Poland and captured eastern Poland. Germany captured Holland, Norway, Belgium, Luxembourg and France in less than a year. The French government of Paris was given the flag of victory in 10 days. What was the secret of Hitler's great success? War technology and military training were the reasons for success. But there was also another reason, and that was drugs. German soldiers were given Pervitin drugs. This drug is a form of methamphetamine that can keep a person active for many days. Hitler himself was also taking a lot of drugs. He had a doctor, Theodor Morell, who was actually a Jew, but still he was a loyal servant of Hitler. He was injecting Hitler with a variety of drugs including methamphetamine, cocaine, and morphine. Not only that, Hitler was also given organs that were made from the liver of a pig. Hitler also used another drug, Ecodel. These drugs kept Hitler alert all the time. He also took cocaine to get rid of his ear pain. Once he even survived the overdose of cocaine. You must have seen Hitler's Nazi salute pictures. Hitler kept his arms up in the air for a long time and never got tired. The reason for this was that he also used glucose injections. This way, Hitler was winning every war with the power of drugs. By 1940, Hitler was at the top of his game. There was no chance of his defeat. There was no chance of his defeat. But suddenly he had a minor defeat that changed the course of the war. After defeating France, Hitler thought Britain would surrender. But Britain had already changed. Neville Chamberlain was fed up with Hitler's failure. Now Churchill was the prime minister. He stood up to Hitler. Hitler told Churchill that he did not want to destroy the British Empire, so Churchill should befriend him, or else he should be ready for destruction. When Churchill refused, Hitler came up with a plan to take over Britain. This plan was called Operation Sea Lion. But for Operation Sea Lion, it was necessary to destroy the British Air Force and Navy first, so that the German army could enter Britain. But when the German Air Force launched the attack, Britain had prepared two surprises for it. One surprise was the radar. Yes, radar. This was the invention of Britain. No other country in the world had it. With the help of radar, the British knew about the arrival of the German planes, and their planes would come in front of the Germans. The second weapon was the Spitfire. Its engine was more powerful than the German planes. When the battle started, more than 1,800 German planes were destroyed in just 4 months. The loss of Britain was of 1,000 planes. This battle was called the Battle of Britain. The loss of 1,800 planes was not a big loss for Hitler's war machinery. But Hitler lost the battle because he did not want to waste time in conquering a small country like Britain. His eyes were on Soviet Russia. It may be surprising to you that Hitler hated the Russians more than the Jews, because the Russians were of the Slovak descent. They had a long-standing enmity with the Germans, but a great German empire could be established on the large territory of Soviet Russia. So Hitler began preparations to conquer Russia. The attack on Soviet Russia was not easy. Hitler's own generals had also said that the attack could be costly. The fate of the 19th century French Emperor Napoleon was also in Hitler's hands. He entered Russia but was defeated by the cold weather. But Hitler's intention was so firm that he did not care about the dangers and killed the generals. Hitler was planning to spread the war, while political leaders from all over the world were asking Hitler to take the path of peace. Allama Iqbal had also proposed a second world war before his death, while Mahatma Gandhi wrote a letter to Hitler asking him to take the path of peace instead of war. He also wrote that if not Britain, then some other power would learn from your weapons and defeat you. But Hitler ignored the suggestions of the world leaders. Hitler prepared for the attack on Soviet Russia in a very secret manner. In such a secret manner that Stalin could not be aware of it. Britain warned Stalin that Hitler was preparing for the attack. But Stalin did not listen. Hitler's hatred for Soviet Russia was so great that he announced in front of his generals that the Russian government would wipe out Moscow from the map and make a lake instead of a city. This would generate electricity. The Russian culture would be destroyed. Russian children would be taught to obey their German masters in schools. The best time to attack Soviet Russia was the hot weather. In the beginning of 1941, Hitler's troops were ready for this war. But during this time Hitler attacked Greece with the help of his friend Mussolini. He also attacked Yugoslavia. The attack on Soviet Russia was postponed for 4 weeks. This 4-week delay cost Hitler a lot of money. Years later, when Hitler was counting the last days of his life in his bunker, he used to shout, "I wish someone would give me back those 4 weeks." Anyway, after taking over Greece and Yugoslavia, Hitler turned to Soviet Russia. On the morning of June 22nd, when the darkness had not yet ended, about 400,000 German troops attacked Soviet Russia. This attack was named Operation Barbarossa. When the German troops started bombing, a Russian officer called his general and said, "Sir, the Germans have attacked." The general replied, "Are you mad?" But this was not madness. The attack had already taken place. When Stalin came to know that Hitler had attacked, his nervous breakdown started. For 2 weeks, he remained in a state of madness. He did not talk to anyone or listen to anyone. Finally, he got out of his mental state by persuading his friends. On July 4th, he gave the first address of war to the Russian people. On the radio, Hitler wanted to reach Moscow as soon as possible. But when his troops reached Moscow, they stopped the attack on Moscow and rushed to Ukraine. The Russian troops took advantage of the attack on Moscow. They gathered more troops and defeated the Germans. This year, Hitler made another mistake. After the Japanese attack on Pearl Harbor, he launched another attack against the U.S. In 1942, Hitler attacked the Russian city of Stalingrad, because this city was in Stalin's name. So Hitler wanted to conquer it and defeat Stalin psychologically. But the cold weather broke the Germans back and they put up arms. This defeat was the turning point of Hitler's life. The Russian army launched a rapid attack on the Germans. Most of the German troops were either killed or arrested. Now the Russian army was advancing towards Berlin. On June 6, 1944, the US and British troops attacked the German army in Normandy, France. The day of the attack was called D-Day. The Germans were defeated in this battle as, well, the situation was that the Russian troops were advancing from the east and the US army from the west. But the Germans were with Hitler in this situation as well. On April 20, 1944, Hitler celebrated his birthday. What a birthday it was! The Germans were aware of the defeat. But the Germans celebrated Hitler's birthday in a grand manner out of fear and devotion. Hitler's government was confined to its bunker in Berlin. It was called the Führer bunker. Hitler spent his last days in this bunker in a state of great despair. He screamed at his officers and was worried about the defeat of the army. Hitler was not even getting his drugs. His hands and feet were shaking due to the lack of drugs. Marks were falling on his arms. His body was being destroyed inside. Hitler was in great pain. On April 30, 1945, the Russian army had reached the Führer bunker. Hitler was aware that the end was near. He had no hope of his enemies apart from the death penalty. On April 28, when his friend Mussolini was killed with his lover, Hitler took a decision. The next day he married his lover Eva Braun and made her Eva Hitler. Eva had waited for 15 years to become Hitler's bride. But unfortunately she did not get even 24 hours to spend with her husband. On April 30th, Hitler prepared for suicide. He wore the army uniform. He also adorned the Iron Cross he received in the First World War. He went to the study room with his bride. His last gift for Eva Braun was a cyanide capsule. The guards heard the sound of bullets. They rushed inside. Hitler's body was lying there. He had shot himself in the head. His bride had also taken poison. Interestingly, Hitler was born in April and he died in the same month. This is the bunker where Hitler spent the last days of his life. This bunker was badly damaged by the bombing, but tourists still go to see it. After Hitler's death, his propaganda master Goebbels also committed suicide. Goebbels had 6 innocent children. Goebbels first poisoned them and then committed suicide with his wife. In this way, innocent children were punished for their parents' sins. The Nazis claimed that Hitler's rule would last for 1,000 years, but it reached its end in just 12 years. The guards of this bunker claimed that Hitler was not cruel at all. He had freed his army before his death. He ordered the guards to burn his body, so that he would not be deprived like Mussolini. The guards burned the bodies of their Führer and his bride. But the Russian soldiers reached there and destroyed the bodies of the Russians. The bodies of Hitler's teeth were verified. Here is an interesting fact. Hitler had only 5 real teeth and the rest were fake. In 1970, the Soviet secret agency, KGB, dumped Hitler's remains in a river in Germany. This picture is said to be Hitler's dead body, but it was never verified. Hitler died, but the Second World War changed the geography of the world. Pakistan, India, and many other countries were freed. Today the world is a global village. So Hitler's national superiority taught him a lesson. Nations decided to live together again. The UN was formed to stop wars. The UN agreed to ban the use of nuclear weapons. Even today Hitler is so famous that in 2016 Hitler's book Mein Kampf was allowed to be published again in Germany. Proved to be a bestseller. In your opinion, who are the leaders of the world? Who have a mindset like Hitler, or are they following his path? Do share your thoughts in the comments below. For this video, we have covered newspapers, videos, and books from a century ago. If you like this effort, do subscribe to our channel and tell us about the lives of people around you. To know how Pakistan became a nuclear power, click here. And to know about Operation Khilafat, click here.